Welcome to the High Value Sales Show of Eversprint.com. I'm Malcolm Louie, the managing member of Eversprint, and today we're speaking with John Bennett, the executive director of Sunny Days In-Home Care, a provider of quality in-home healthcare services for seniors. Welcome to the show, John.
Thanks for having me.
John, you grew your company's revenue from $3.9 million in 2014 to $7.8 million in 2017, a 99% increase, and in 2018, you hit around $8.3 million. Before we talk about how you grew your company so fast, can you briefly share what your company does beyond my quick intro and how your company differs from the competition?
Sure, I'd be happy to. So we provide non-medical in-home care to seniors, people with disabilities, veterans, and those with intellectual disabilities as well. And we have a little bit of a unique model. The market space is kind of flooded. There's a lot of senior care agencies out there, but a lot of them have someone that does scheduling, someone that does intake, someone that's out in the field, and it's kind of segmented off. We have local field managers that kind of manage all of those aspects for us, but with a much smaller caseload than someone that was responsible for an entire company. So our field managers are in the community. They know the clients that we take care of really well. They know the caregivers really well and their personalities that they've interviewed, and they're really able to find a good match to fit because they know kind of both sides of the agreement there between the client and the caregiver. And that's really allowed us to get staff on board that our clients are happy with. And it's also allowed us to find clients that our caregivers are really happy with and really enjoy providing care for.
All right, awesome. So when you grew your company from 3.9 million in 2014 to 8.3 million 4 years later in 2018, what were the three biggest drivers behind that sales growth?
Sure. Yes, that's a great question. So my father-in-law, David Ellenwood, actually started the company, and him and I have put a couple different things in place that have kind of allowed us to scale. And I'd say out of the three biggest drivers, one is client satisfaction. And I know that's everyone's goal across the board in businesses, to make sure your clients are happy. But we really put that at the top of all our decisions, is to make sure client care is priority one. We really want to make sure that our clients are happy with the services that they receive, that the caregivers that are going in there, they're pleased with them. The schedule, we're very flexible with our schedule and able to meet people's needs based off of appointments and when they get up in the morning, when they go to bed at night, when their meals are. I mean, we really try to schedule around and really customize that schedule for the client. So number one is definitely client care. Number two is scalability. Because of our model we have with field managers, as we continue to kind of expand our geographical footprint or grow in certain areas where we may have had one field manager initially and now we have a need for two, we're really able to kind of scale and almost hit the copy and paste button on what we're doing. And that's really helped us as well. And then the third is just efficiency on the back end and automation with as much as possible as you can automate. In this industry, there needs to be personalization. I know there's been some people who have tried to kind of Uberify home care, and that works with some people, but seniors really want to make sure that they know somebody, that they're comfortable with them. We really need to have a personal touch. So we really have that personal touch as much as possible on the front end. And then on the back end, we automate everything. The way we collect all of our forms, we've designed our own app, and just we use some different software and just some different cloud-based systems that have really helped us kind of automate the back end and make everything as seamless as possible. So it's kind of client care would be our top one, scalability, and then automation on the back end. Those would be our three biggest drivers.
Okay, great. To go into a little bit deeper, so client satisfaction, how are you measuring that?
Sure. So we every month our staff goes and they meet and we do what we call it a monthly visit. It's basically a quality check with our clients to make sure that they're doing well. It's kind of a twofold approach. One is that they're doing well, that their health hasn't declined or improved, and we need to adapt our services and our schedule. And two is that they're satisfied. And we want to make sure that they're satisfied with our caregivers that we're going in there, with the schedule, with the tasks that are being completed. And then we also do random calls from our office to make sure that our clients are pleased with the services that their field manager is coordinating for them. So we have a monthly visit, and then as well as we do random calls from the office just kind of as an extra layer there to make sure they're happy.
Okay. Now you said before in the intro that you were a non-medical home care service. And then
Yes.
Just now you mentioned about assessing the health of the clients, if it's better or worse. How do you do that if you're not medically oriented?
Sure. That's a great question. So we're basically looking for signs to see if someone has a decline, mentally, physically, maybe it's somebody who was able to, ambulate, move around on their own before, and now they need more assistance. Maybe initially our caregiver was just making sure that they didn't fall, and now our caregiver has to kind of steady them as they walk and, help them get up, sit down, that type of thing. Maybe they're not eating, and there's a reason they're not eating. Maybe they're having issues, with using the restroom. Different things like that we can kind of assess kind of from a high level view. And then we can notify, its family or the visiting nurse who may be involved with them, or hospice in certain situations. And they can actually come in and do the full medical evaluation to see if there is a decline in their health. So we're not necessarily doing the full on evaluation, but we're looking for signs, and we've trained our staff to look for those signs to see if, if someone's health's deteriorating. Because ultimately, if someone is has us serviced for home care, they want to stay in their home. They don't want to go in the facility, and we want them to stay in their home as well. We want to keep them happy. And if there's something that maybe they need certain kind of medication, or maybe they need a walker, or kind of a different type of plan, we want to try to identify that and help them to prevent them from having to to go into a facility.
Right. Okay. Got it. Now, I imagine one of the key things about client satisfaction is that the helper, the
caregiver.
staff, the caregiver actually comes to the location on time and is consistent on that. How do you ensure that they do show up on time, that they aren't flakes?
Sure, that's a great question. So we have a live schedule that's being watched constantly throughout the day by someone here in the office, and then the field managers are checking it as well. And then we also have on-call managers that are checking the schedule throughout the evening, and then through the night and on the weekends as well. And what we have set up is there's a notification. If someone is more than 15 minutes late, we get a notification, and we instantly are able to call that person, find out what's going on, make sure the client's okay, and get that shift squared away. And maybe the person forgot to clock in. Sometimes we use a telephony system, and sometimes our clients, they're on the phone. Maybe they're on the phone talking to their sister who lives in another state, and our caregiver is not able to clock in when they get there. And that may, we may get a notification for that because they weren't able to access their phone. And other times the caregiver doesn't show up for a shift, and that doesn't happen often, but it does happen. And we're able to find out as quick as possible and get somebody else in there to go provide that care. So we kind of have a couple checks and balances in place to make sure that they're getting there on time. And then our system allows us to actually look at live time. And we can see, and we run some different reports and are able to identify caregivers that are frequently late, which is helpful in, having a sit down with that person and figuring out what's going on. Maybe they have to put their daughter on the bus, and it's unrealistic for them to make a 7:30 a.m. shift. Maybe we can change it to 7:45 and the client's okay with that. But we really try to stay on top of those things.
Right. Got it. Now, when you're saying when caregivers clock in, they literally pick up a phone and dial in. They don't necessarily have an app on their phone, and they just say, "I'm here."
Sure. So it's a mix. We used to be exclusively telephony, where someone had to pick up a phone and dial in, and it was the client's phone. But as technology's kind of progressed, we have a lot more of our caregivers who are actually using. We have an app through the electronic scheduling company that we use. And what we're able to do is we're able to put a geofence around that person's house. So the person actually physically has to be in the house with their location services on their phone in order to clock in. So that's kind of given us a way to prevent. Our concern always was that somebody would, be sitting on the street, clock in, and then leave.
Right.
Hate to have to think that way, but that is, just the nature of the industry. So now that we're able to kind of geofence around someone's house and make sure they're in there to clock in, that's been really helpful for us.
Yep. Your caregivers, typically, who are they? What's their background?
Sure. So a lot of our caregivers, we can have, 3 different categories, really. We have some CNAs that work for us. We have home health aides, which have, it's not necessarily they went to schooling for that or anything, but they do have a background. They've taken some classes to become a certified home health aide. And then we also have people that just have a passion for the industry. They may not necessarily have a certification or anything like that, but maybe they cared for their grandma until she passed away, and they're really passionate about providing care. Or maybe they, it's just somebody who really, really likes taking care of elderly people. We have a lot of people like that who they love taking care of elderly people and kind of gleaning wisdom from them and just learning about what the world used to be like. And, those are kind of our 3 CNAs, HHAs, and then people just kind of have a background in home care or are passionate about home care, and we train them to make sure that they're capable of providing care before they go into someone's home.
Okay, and what does CNA stand for?
Sure, it's Certified Nursing Assistant.
Okay. So certified nursing assistants, how do they typically get that certification? Is that a college type program?
Yeah, it's it's more like a trade school type degree that you would get. So some vocational schools and high school offer that, but typically they have to go to some kind of trade school to get that degree.
And do
community
people,
college.
Yeah, and do your caregivers, do they view it as a temporary gig that they're doing, in the meanwhile while they're in college or in between permanent jobs, or do they see it as a long-term career path for themselves?
Sure, it's really a mix actually. We get nursing students that want to kind of have a background with the elderly, and they'll come and they'll work for us for maybe a year or two while they're in school for nursing. We have other people in between jobs. And then we have other people that, they might work a 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. shift every day while their kids are at school. And they're just doing it as that's their permanent job. We have other people that, we have some of our cases are a little bit more high needs. And we have people that we're able to pay a little bit more for those cases. And that's the person's kind of their full-time career. So it really depends. There really is a good mix and combination of, people that are doing it temporarily and people that are with us for, the long run.
Right. Now, in terms of their second driver, talk about scalability, almost copy and paste. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, sure. So we've created a kind of our training manual, which might sound like something basic, but we really want to make sure that people are trained the exact same across the board. And we've also, have ability online with our mapping software to kind of figure out the demographics of an area and the senior population of that area. And we'll start advertising in that area. And once we get a certain we do everything based off of hours of care per week. So once we get a certain amount of hours of care per week in an area, we'll look at kind of cutting that off of one of our current field managers and hiring somebody, depending on the amount of hours, either as a part-time field manager or a full-time field manager, and have that person kind of take over that area. And then as we continue to grow, that's kind of been our business model, is we're able to bring somebody else on board. We have a couple regional managers that oversee kind of the southern part of Western Pennsylvania and the northern part of Western Pennsylvania is kind of our breakdown. And as we start to kind of, get too full of clients and hours in one area, then we look at bringing somebody else on. And the training, the systems we have in place, the technology and everything else, we just train that person on that and kind of, like I said, copy and paste, what we're doing. And obviously we have to adapt it a little bit. Certain areas, people might, look for jobs on Craigslist. Another area, they might look for jobs on Facebook or LinkedIn. It just depends on the area. But for the most part, we're able to kind of, just duplicate everything.
Now, maybe I should ask you this earlier, but can you talk a little bit about your geographic location? Because you kind of brought that up here in the scalability. Like, what areas do you operate in now?
Sure. So we cover Western Pennsylvania. We go up to not quite to Erie, but kind of up to Interstate 80. And then we go out to not quite the whole way out to like State College in the middle of the state, but probably about, if you're looking at the map of Pennsylvania, we cover about a third. The left third quadrant, left third of the state is kind of our footprint there.
Okay. Now, how far can you go before you have to open up a new management office to help with it?
Sure. It's a great question. So one of the nice things about our scalability is we just have one central office. And we have clients that are, 2.5 hours away from our office. But we have a field manager. All of our field managers are within at least an hour of their client at the maximum. So if our field managers are kind of our backup to the backup plan, if there's a call off for going in and providing priority care to a client. So we just kind of based it off of hours in a certain location. And once we get a certain amount of hours, 400 to 500 hours a week of care, that's when we look at bringing on another field manager in that area. But I mean, we have, like I said, we have people that are 2.5 hours from our office that we're fine because we have field managers that live within an hour of them.
So based on your systems that you have in place now, could you literally have clients, not if you wanted to, could you have clients in California right now and do everything as you're doing currently?
I would say If it was the same state, yes, because the same rules and regs. But that's something that we've kind of talked back and forth with the state here, because they kind of want us to have an office. But whenever we explain that we have field managers that are in that area, they seem to be satisfied with that. So yeah, I mean, I feel like that we could expand. At some point, because we do have people that they have to come to the office, for certain things once a month, to pick up maybe gloves for our caregivers. We have ID badges that sometimes we mail out. Sometimes people pick them up from the office. I would say at some point, once we start to get clients, maybe at least 3.5 hours from the office, we would look at needing to open an actual physical location.
Just to handle the logistics side of things.
Just completely for logistics. If it wasn't for the actual physical items that needed to be picked up and exchanged, I mean, we could expand it, across the country without actually having to have because we're able to collect everything kind of on the back end with the systems we have in place. So
right now, as part of your hiring process, do you need to do the whole fingerprinting, background check, and all that sort of stuff?
Yeah, so we do background check. Fingerprinting depends if there's children in the home or the person hasn't lived in the state for 2 years. It just depends on when we need to do fingerprinting. But background check, we have to have that in order to bring somebody on our team. Right.
Okay. Now, is that a state regulation or something that you guys just do just to make sure that everyone is,
sure, it's
top quality?
State regulation, but if it wasn't, it's something we would still do. Just because, I mean, someone could have a great interview and tell you they're the best person ever and seem like the greatest person. And then when you run a background check and you see that, they've got, two different shoplifting charges on their record from 3 months ago, then you find out, this isn't somebody we want to hire.
Right.
So,
exactly. And reputation is everything, right? I mean,
it's in the industry. It is it could kill us if something like that happened and we hired somebody and then something was stolen from a client's house and it was found out that we hired somebody that, that had that history. That would really be damaging to our brand.
Yeah, definitely. I can see that. And then driver number three, automation. Automation with a personalized touch. Can you talk a bit more about that?
Sure. So we were looking a few years ago. We had to collect everything by paper. And you can imagine having, people that are an hour and a half, 2 hours away. They would either have to drive to our office or mail something to our office. And we didn't really like that. Driving because that's not efficient with time or with money because you have the gas aspect of it. And B, with mailing stuff out, I mean, you're mailing something that's supposed to be secure, but it still might have somebody's personal health information on there. And that's not something we necessarily want to mail because it could be taken. So what we did is we looked at some different apps and we ended up having a company build out kind of a basic layout for an app for us. And then I've kind of taken that and our team has kind of doubled it in size and we have everything on this app now and we run everything. We use Apple, so we run everything from our iPads and all of our managers have an iPad out in the field. And kind of how it works is if we were hiring you, for example, we would sit down and we would interview you at, a Panera Bread or at the food court at a mall or a Starbucks or somewhere like that. And go through the interview process. You'd fill everything out on our tablet. We kind of vet you, obviously through the interview questions as you fill out the paperwork. And then as soon as you hit submit, that goes, you get a copy as the person who filled it out and it automatically goes into our cloud. And then it also goes to whoever the person is in the office that's responsible for that documentation. So we kind of have everything segmented. There's someone in our office who's responsible for all new hire paperwork. So that email goes to that person. If we're doing a client evaluation, the monthly visit, there's someone in our office who checks those. So that email goes to that person. Same thing whenever we're doing an initial client paperwork, we call it a client intake. A copy of that gets emailed to either that client or the family member that's responsible for that client, and then to our office, and it also goes into our cloud. So we're able to act on things extremely quickly. If we're trying to hire somebody fairly quickly, maybe it's somebody that this client, maybe they want their next door neighbor to take care of them. And they need to get all the paperwork done. And they live 2 hours from the office. We can get that paperwork done, have it in the office instantly. We're able to run the background check and fingerprint if necessary. And it's just allowed us to, keep our managers as efficient as possible with time as well, because they're out in the field and they don't have to worry about how am I going to get this paperwork down to the office. They just hit submit and they know it goes. So that's really allowed us to expand.
Very cool. Now, I take it the paperwork for onboarding a new client is similarly done?
Yes. Yep. it's pretty much the same type of process, except that, it'll go to, like I said, sometimes it'll go to the client, sometimes it'll go to the family member of the client. A lot of situations we may have somebody who has dementia, or isn't 100%, capable of making all these decisions, and maybe their daughter is there, helping do this initial client intake, and their daughter wants a copy emailed to them, so that's who it would go to instead of the client. But yeah, same process.
Right, got it. Looking ahead a little bit for 2019, say we were having this discussion again 1 year from today, and you were looking back over the past year. What has to have happened in your business for you to feel happy with your company's progress? Specifically, what problems do you have today that need to be eliminated? What opportunities do you see that need to be captured? And what strengths do you have that need to be maximized?
Sure. Some great questions there. So just looking at it from a financial aspect, we're currently doing about 11,000 hours of care per week right now, which when you're talking about revenue, we're about 1,000 hours of care equals about $1 million a year of revenue. So we're at about an $11 million a year run rate currently. We started the year at about $10 million a year run rate. Our goal is to be at 13 at the end of the year, which means we need to grow another 2,000 hours of care per week on a regular basis in order to hit that goal. So that's kind of how everything's kind of predicated off of that goal. So what that means is there's going to be a couple more field managers that need hired, that need trained, that need to spend time kind of shadowing our current field managers. So that's one of our biggest challenges, is finding a field manager that we like to find people that are in that area that we're looking to expand. So we might find somebody that's great, awesome person that would be a great fit for us, but they live an hour and a half away. And it just doesn't make sense because they're not in that community. They don't know people in the community. They don't have as many connections. So that's always one of our biggest challenges, is finding somebody that is in that location that we're looking to expand, especially the further you get away from, a metropolis like Pittsburgh would be. I mean, that's not large, the population really dwindles as you get farther away. And so really getting somebody that's quality, that lives in that area. And we need to get at least 2 of those people. Our field managers typically handle between 800 and one of our field managers actually has 2,000 hours of care per week that she oversees, but typically they're between 800 and 1,200 hours of care per week. So that's probably our biggest challenge, I would say, is finding 2 more people that are going to be really good fits for us. We hire internally a lot. We have 14 field managers, and 6 of them are former caregivers of ours. So that's something that there is definitely an ability to move up in the company. So that's one of the things. And then we do a lot of care through the state waiver system through Medicaid. And that recently transitioned in the start of 2018 in our region to managed care. So it's a managed care organization, which some states have, some states don't, but it was different for us. And 2018 was just a really big adjustment to make sure that, we kept our contacts up, our referral sources and everything. And as that continues, it seems that they're kind of, slowly weeding out some of the companies that aren't performing as well. So one of our challenges there, and it's something that we try to hold ourselves to a higher standard anyways, is maintaining that high standard so we're able to continue our long-term contracts with these companies. Is definitely another area that's challenging. And then, consistently trying to stay ahead of the game. I always say, and some people were like, what's this have to do with home care? But I never want to become a blockbuster. I don't want to become a company that was kind of set in their ways, and then times passed them by and they weren't able to keep up with them, and then they went out of business. And I'm constantly trying to look at ways with our team here of how to stay kind of ahead of the game with technology. And one of the things we're looking at here is kind of, I mentioned it earlier, there's a couple companies out there who've tried to kind of bring the Uber model to home care. And it's done okay in some places and not so well in others. And that's something that we're looking into, and, trying to do some different test runs here, not necessarily with our clients, but in the office, to see how we could kind of incorporate some aspect to that. Not because it's the catchy thing or hot thing to do right now, but we do definitely believe that, the world's getting more automated and more reliant on technology, and we want to be a part of that as we grow.
Right.
I know it was a very long answer, but those are kind of the main areas that we're looking at.
Yeah, got it. So you talk about the biggest problem, hiring field managers, and you also talk about another challenge is staying ahead of the game in technology. And then the second one you actually mentioned, a bit out of sequence here, but the second one you mentioned is just maintaining your high standards.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
How about on the opportunity side? I know somewhat you talk about technology offering a bit of an opportunity, and your market that you're currently in now broadly sounds to be still have a lot of opportunities for you because you're looking to increase to 13 million this year, as opposed to where you ended the year last year at 8.3, right? That's a pretty big increase.
Yes.
Is there any pocket within your market that looks especially attractive?
Yeah, there's an area kind of in the northern area of Pittsburgh, Cranberry. The population there is growing pretty rapidly. And that's kind of an area where we want to, if you kind of ran a heat map of where our clients are, that's kind of a blue area, kind of a dead zone for us. And you have to really kind of, when you're looking at this, you want to look at areas where there's a lot of clients. So we know there's a lot of clients there potentially, right? I mean, that's the first thing you want to look at. The second thing you want to look at is to make sure you have staffing. Our caregivers are really great people. A lot of them are just, they're wonderful. Caregivers typically make anywhere from $9 to $12 an hour. So certain areas that we go, there might be a lot of potential clients there, but it's a very high income area, and it may be really hard to find staffing in that area that we could get somebody to, want to caregiver for $9 to $12 an hour. So we have to kind of look at the pockets and figure out, kind of from both aspects. Is this somewhere that there's a lot of clients? Yes. Okay. Is it somewhere that we can make sure we have enough staffing to keep up with the client demand? And if it's not, then, are there ways that we can get clients to travel there? Are there ways that we can possibly incentivize, caregivers travel there? Is there ways that we could possibly incentivize caregivers and pay them more? We'd have to bill clients more, but maybe they can afford it if it's a higher income area. We try not to price gouge at all. We really try to stay consistent with that regardless of, who you are or where you live. So there's kind of a lot of things that play into kind of looking in those pockets. But the really big one is if there's client potential, yes. But if there's not staffing potential, then it might not be somewhere that we want to try to expand into.
Right. Now, when you quoted the $9 to $12 per hour amount, a thought that occurred to my mind is that, in today's world and today's cost of living, that's not a huge amount. But
correct.
If the job, if you paid me for 8 hours of work, but the nature of the work is such that I'm not really working for that entire 8 hours, it might kind of make sense for me. So is that the case when it comes to caregiving? Are they on the go for the entire time they're at the client's home, or is it more of a on demand while they're there?
It depends on the case, to be honest with you. It's definitely, it's really a combination. We have some caregivers that are there for companion care that they might microwave lunch and play some cards and then sit down for the afternoon and, watch Oprah and just relax with the client. And the client may need them to help do their laundry or something like that. And it's nothing too serious. And then we have other clients that, they're bed bound and need a sponge bath every day. There may be a bedpan involved. There may be somebody that, another person, maybe we have to help them transfer everywhere they're going, help them get in and out of seats, in and out of their wheelchair, help them go to the bathroom, help feed them. And it's very serious, and it's not much of a break at all.
Right.
So it really does depend. In those cases that there's more intensity, typically we tend to pay our caregivers more because you need somebody that's able, those are people that are making more money an hour because they need to be able to, to be somebody that's able to handle that, A, and B, that's qualified to do that. The unfortunate part is sometimes we're handcuffed, when we work with the state, our reimbursement levels are very low for the state. So there's certain cases where the most we can pay is maybe 10 to 10.50 an hour in order to keep a profit margin at all there. So there's really a lot of different factors that go into that. But yeah, there are some caregivers that, they just kind of spend time with companionship, and, the people that we're taking care of, they want someone there to kind of help out with some things and make sure they're okay and they're not lonely.
Right. Now, you mentioned something about the state compensation levels. Can you share a little bit more about that?
Yeah, sure. So the state clients that we take care of, there's a certain rate that we get reimbursed, and it's anywhere from like $17.50 to $19.50 an hour. Which, if you're getting $17.50, you're paying a caregiver $10 an hour. A lot of people think, oh, well, there's a $7.50 margin there. There is, as far as overhead margin, but then you get into all of the cost of insurance and all the back end costs of management and office and those type of things, and the margin, almost disappears. So that's an area where, we're somewhat handcuffed with those clients, just because we literally can't pay caregivers anymore. Otherwise we would lose money every hour, and that's not something obviously that makes sense. So, and that also, factors into overtime as well. We look at certain cases like that. Maybe a caregiver called off, and our priority once again is making sure the clients are happy. So if the caregiver calls off and we can't find any other staffing, maybe we have to ask, another caregiver to work overtime, which we don't like to do that, obviously, because that cuts into our margins. But if it makes sure the client, has care and they're happy and they stay on as one of our clients, and it's worth it. But that gets into a lot more, trickiness whenever you're, reimbursed at such a low rate by the state.
Right. Yeah, totally can see that. Now, how about in terms of your company's strengths? What are they, and how would you like to see them leveraged further over the next year?
Sure. So our biggest one, kind of once again, going back to that, is client satisfaction. Our clients are, for the most part, there's, we have a couple hundred clients we take care of, a little over 250, currently on our schedule. You figure if you please 99%, that's still 2.5, 3 clients that aren't happy. But for the most part, our clients are very happy. Our client satisfaction is a strength, and we get a lot of word of mouth referrals. We do a really good job at someone's house, and maybe their neighbor down the road or their cousin or somebody else needs care, or their aunt or whoever, and they let them know, hey, how's Sunny Days doing for you? Oh, we love Sunny Days. We love our caregiver, Susie. She's great. Our field manager is really nice and responds to our calls and everything. And, if you pick them, there'd be somebody that you'd be happy with. That's something that we really strive for, and is one of our strengths. And the other one is, we always, like I said, we have on-call managers that handle the phones at night. We always have a live person that you can talk to. We're not automated at all, which a lot of our competitors, you dial in and you press 1 for this or 2 for that. And that's great. And there's definitely pros to that. But when we have elderly people call in, they don't want to do that. Elderly people want to talk to somebody. And we always have somebody, if they call at 11:30 at night and they're upset about something, maybe their grandson just lost his job, and sometimes they call and just want to talk. We have somebody that's going to answer that phone. And people really like that. They like having a live person on the phone. So our personal touch is really seem to help us, with our clients and our caregivers as well. I'm allergic to cats. We have caregivers that we tag everybody, what you have. And say we have a caregiver that's allergic to cats. We're not going to put that person in the home with somebody that has 3 or 4 cats, just because they're not going to enjoy it. They're going to be uncomfortable the whole time. And then the client's going to pick up on that. And that might sound like a really basic thing, but we've had people come to our company. I actually was at a Chipotle and talking to somebody in line, and they saw my little badge and they said, "Oh, you do home care. I used to work for such and such agency." And they put me in a home with cats, and I told them I was allergic, and they said, "Well, that's the shift that we have for you." And she said, "That's why I'm working at Chipotle now, because I couldn't do that, and I'd love to get back into home care." So of course I gave her my card, and we ended up hiring her. But it's just basic things like that, kind of that personal touch, and just keeping our clients happy. Those are our strengths, and all the other stuff we talk about is important. But if we're able to do that, then we're going to continue to grow. Awesome.
Now, I took a look at your web presence. I don't see any pay-per-click ads, and not a super strong SEO presence either. What's your take on pay-per-click and SEO when it comes to finding new clients and business for your company?
Sure. So we actually have a sub-site or mini site that we own. It's inhomecarepittsburgh.com. And that's where we kind of divert all of our traffic to, just because of the keywords. And that's what we run our pay-per-click ads through, and really try to advertise that way. So we don't necessarily do a lot with our main Sunny Days site. That site kind of refers to our main site, but yeah, we do everything kind of through that mini site. And we kind of switch. We use this company called RevLocal, which I think they're a national company. We kind of switched. We've run a couple different agencies that have kind of managed our SEO and pay-per-click, and they did an okay job. They didn't do bad, but since we switched to this company, they've really helped us, get a lot more web traffic. And our big thing that they've helped us with is get people on the phone. We have a lot of people go to our site and fill out forms, which is actually the best way for someone looking for a job. But when someone's looking for care, it's just not as good in our, from what we've found with our data. But when we get people on the phone, we're able to convert those prospects to clients much more frequently. We feel like our team in place in the office is really good on the phone, and really helps the individual on the phone find the care they need. Because we get calls lots of time, and somebody needs hospice or home health care or needs to go to a nursing home, and we have a lot of relationships kind of in the industry, and we'll refer them to different people. Because once again, our top goal is to make sure that our clients are happy, that they're cared for. And even if it's not our client, that person might tell one of their friends, hey, I called this person and I didn't need their services, but they helped me find somebody that's great. You should call them if you need care. So That's kind of our big thing is kind of running it through that mini site. And that's really been well for us. So we do put a couple $1,000s a month into pay-per-click ads. But there's some big franchises in the space that we don't necessarily want to go dollar for dollar with them on pay-per-click. It wouldn't make sense for us financially to do, but we do think it is important.
Right. Okay. And before you talk about, you're at 11,000 hours per week right now of client care. You want to get it up to 13,000 hours per week. So how would you do that? Is that purely getting more clients, or is there other ways of doing it?
Sure. So there's a couple factors that play into that. And we started the year out at 10,000. So we've grown 1,000 already kind of in quarter one. So we're a little bit ahead of schedule. But like I said, we need to have a field manager that's able to manage those hours. Our field managers can only handle so many hours before it just becomes too burdensome. We like it to be kind of a 8 to 5 job with a lunch break during the day. And there's certain points where we get too many hours and our manager's working overtime. And once again, that doesn't make sense financially. And it causes burnout. We've had it in the past, and we've been able to keep our team really consistent over the past year or so out in the field. It is a high stress job, so there's a lot of turnover, but we haven't had much as far as management goes in the past year. So kind of getting those field managers, continuing to build referral sources, and then getting those clients from those referral sources are kind of our I guess the components needed, and then also caregivers. We need to make sure we find caregivers. You could say, hey, John, I'm going to send you 10 clients today. And I'd say, that's great. I'll take them, because that's how we do it most of the time. We try to take every referral we get. But then as soon as I hang up on the phone with you, I'm going to have a little bit of a heart attack trying to figure out how I'm going to staff those cases, so quickly. So we really want to try to make sure that we have caregivers available for those cases. So we always say that caregivers like the gas in the car. You could have the nicest car ever, but if you don't have gas for it, it's not going to move.
Right.
So we really want to make sure that we have caregivers, and quality caregivers too. There's a lot of people that we could hire, but kind of the thought process is, would I let this person take care of my mom? If the answer is no, then probably don't want to hire them.
Right.
So, we get some caregivers and clients. So we maybe get some clients that it's a pretty, top elderly person. Like my granddad, he was in World War II and everything, and the type of caregiver we would need to hire to go in there and kind of put him in his place and be gruff with him sometimes isn't the type of caregiver I would necessarily want to put with my mom. But that person, we would need that person that was a little more strong-willed and pushy with my granddad, because that's the type of caregiver he needs. So that's the biggest thing is, getting caregivers on board. So there's a lot of different factors that go into, getting those additional 2,000 hours.
Right. Now you talk about building referral sources. Are you talking about kind of ad hoc referral sources or more so on a structured basis?
More on I'd say a little bit of both, to be honest with you. But ad hoc, definitely. I mean, we get people that, that maybe come to us once and we prove ourselves to them, and then they send us another person and another person, or connect us with somebody else. So kind of building referral sources. And we've had clients, we have a referral program with our clients and caregivers. If they send us, another caregiver we hire on board or another client, we'll send them a referral bonus once that person's been with us for a certain amount of time. And we've had a couple clients that have sent us 3, 4, 5 family members because they were so happy with our services. And we view that as a referral source in and of itself right there, somebody that's happy with our services. So, but when we have structurally too, just with the state, they have different coordination agencies, and we really try to target certain areas. And we'll go in, and there might be a client, the shorter the shift of care is, the harder it is to staff. So there might be somebody that they say, hey, this person wants a male caregiver, which it's, the industry is, predominantly female. And this person wants a male caregiver, and they only want you to come in 2 hours in the morning and 2 hours at night on the weekends. And that's like the hardest shift ever to staff.
Yeah.
So we'll say, yeah, we'll take that case. And once we're able to staff it and prove ourselves to that person, that referral source, then they might send us, hey, we have a case that's Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. So we kind of have to prove ourselves. But one of the ways we do that is kind of a structured approach too, and take on those tougher cases and prove that we can handle them.
Right. Got it. 3 last questions for you. First one, if you were to have a billboard somewhere in Pennsylvania talking about your company, what would be your company's billboard message? And keep in mind that most billboards on a road or a freeway that's running at a good clip, you only have 6 seconds to see the message before people drive by. So what would be your 6-second message?
Sure, that's a great question there. I would say probably, looking for quality care, and then call her number. Just keep it simple. Maybe even quality in-home care, looking for quality in-home care, and then have her phone number on there. I know it's not fancy or anything else, and that's pretty basic, but we really try to be quality. And that's kind of one of our slogans, is we provide quality in-home care. So
right.
It's not too fancy, not too profound or anything, but that's probably what we would put out there.
Right. And my final 2 questions for you. Who are your ideal clients, and what's the best way for them or their family members to reach your team?
Sure. Yeah. So our ideal clients are somebody that's looking for care, either for themselves or for a loved one, and they want to get a peace of mind. We like to give people a peace of mind. So if you're going to work, maybe you have an hour commute, and your mom has a caregiver coming over while you're at work, and she can't be left alone, that you have the peace of mind and knowing that person is going to be taken care of. So our ideal clients are anybody that, is in need of care. That's in need of non-medical care. Obviously we have to have the non-medical component. And we like to have people that are happy and they want to have a relationship with their caregiver. We really look to get clients, that are happy as well, because we may hire a caregiver who's a great person, and if the client's miserable, and some of our clients are miserable in general, and we just deal with that. And some of our clients are miserable because they're in a lot of pain, and they can't help themselves. But we try to brighten their day. It's kind of, like corny that, going with that we try to brighten someone's day with our name being Sunny Days In-Home Care, but it's really the truth. Especially here in Pittsburgh, it's cloudy a lot. And if we can make somebody, when you have sunshine and a nice day out, that makes you happy. And if we can go in and provide somebody some happiness, then that's what we want to do. So we're looking for, clients that want that they want somebody that's coming in, taking care of their needs, and it's going to make them happy.
Right. Now, for sure, I understand who your end clients are, your end consumer of your services, but is the decision really theirs to make, or is it the family who typically makes that decision as to which home care provider to go with?
Sure. So lots of times it's the family. It's probably, I'd say 50-50 between family and the client themselves. But as you get older, I would say for our clients who are over 75, it's probably 80% of the time it's the family making the decision. And oftentimes in the family, it's the daughter that's making the decision. I'd say about 75% of our cases, I know those numbers right there between 70 and 80, it's the daughter who's reaching out looking for care for their parents. There's that saying, a son's a son till he finds a wife, a daughter's a daughter for life. That's kind of a true in home care. So that's kind of, what we target as far as our SEO and pay-per-click. We typically target, the daughters of these clients, because they're the ones that want to make sure that their mom's okay and taken care of. And not to knock on us as guys, but we're not typically, as caring and compassionate as our sister might be if we have a sister. So, but yeah, that's typically the family is involved typically with a lot of these cases and figuring out how much care is needed. And a lot of times our clients that we're going to be taking care of, that the family's involved with, the clients don't think they need care. And the family is stepping in. And I just literally dealt with a phone call on Thursday. We had an intern in here over Christmas break, and his grandparents, they were trying to get his grandparents care and they refused care. And it was a very unfortunate situation, but his grandma slipped and fell about 2 weeks ago and hurt her hip to a point where she can't go back home now. And she's going to need to be in a facility. And, the intern's mother called me and just said, I really wish that they would have listened to us and, came and got home care because this could have been prevented. So you hear, tough stories like that, but families don't want that to happen. They want their loved ones to stay at home because they know that's where their loved ones want to be. So they're really trying to push oftentimes for us to go in there.
Yeah, definitely. It's like parents or one's parents can be stubborn a bit in terms of how they want to do things.
Yes.
So, all right. And what's the best way for the family members or for your the seniors out there who need assistance for them to contact you and your team?
Sure. Yeah. So I would say, the best way is to call our office if you don't mind talking on the phone. And our number is 724-260-5186. We have a really great team in place that'd love to talk with you and figure out kind of what your needs are. And if you're like me and you don't talk on the phone as much necessarily and you'd rather go online, you go to sunnydaysinhomecare.com. And there's a link on top, looking for care. Click on that, and it'll kind of prompt you to get any information over to us, and then we'll reach out to you about that. That's the best way to get in touch with us, and we'd love to speak with you further and figure out how we can help you or your loved one.
All right. John, it's been great having you on my show today. I really enjoyed hearing how you grew your company so fast.
Yeah, Malcolm, thanks a lot for having me. I've really enjoyed speaking with you.
We've been speaking with John Bennett, the Executive Director of Sunny Days in Home Care, about his company's rapid growth. For interviews with other fast-growing, high-value sales companies, or to learn how we can accelerate your firm's high-value sales through automation, visit eversprint.com.